guys, what's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and hey, we are back here on Botched Roll, which you're hearing probably on This Week in Geek.net, but also my Patreon, patreon.com/birdmandod, Fox's World of Adventure or storytelling. I'm not sure. Either way, patreon.com/birdmandod if you care. So yeah, guys, it has been a very busy summer in terms of TTRPGs for me. I have been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, but that's not exactly why we're here today. So over the summer, I had a chance to finally begin my own private group of Star Trek Adventures 2nd edition. I've been playing that every other Thursday with my group here in Guelph on Thursdays. And it's been a absolutely wonderful experience. And if you've been following some of the stuff on Modifius this past summer, that's the company that I freelance for, you may have seen we've put out stuff for a technical manual that came out, and we just came out with our own guide for exploration. But what kind of started today's conversation is I was looking for something before the exploration book came out, and I needed something to generate planets and biomes and just make the Shackleton Expanse, where I've set most of my game, a little bit more interesting. So I was browsing on YouTube, and there's a wonderful content creator named Guy. He used to run the channel How to Be a Great GM. Now he runs the channel Off My Bridge, which is specifically focused on Star Trek adventures. And he started talking about something called the Galaxy Builder Deck. And if you're not quite sure what that is, it's a series of cards based upon spatial phenomena, stuff that happens in space. It might be like asteroids, it could be planets, it could be stars, all sorts of cool things. And Guy was using it in his games to generate like solar system planets, and eventually, you could build out entire sectors with this thing. So I decided to check out who this person was, and I came across Jeff McDowell, and he is the owner and operator of this really wonderful thing called Journey Mountain Studios. And this is the guy who designed the Galaxy Builder deck. So I emailed Jeff, and through a complete series of misadventures, because if you guys have been following my social media, my life has been interesting, to say the very least, this past summer. So it's been a bit of a challenge to get Jeff on the show, but thankfully the stars have aligned. The transporter buffer is ready to go. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Jeff to the show.
Hello.
So, Jeff, it has been a long time coming to get this conversation, either from dental problems, death in the family, short of a Borg cube showing up in orbit around Earth. It has taken a long time, but I'm glad you've had a chance to come here on the show and talk about this, because I'm a big fan of any company that adds something a little bit extra to the TTRPG experience. And having something like this for sci-fi games is, I think, incredibly interesting. So to my listeners, explain in your own words, what are the Galaxy Builder decks and what do they do?
Sure. It's a set of cards, decks and sets, that provide a visual way to create or lay out a star system, from the stars to the individual planets, inner planets, outer planets. And I try to create as much variety as possible. But the idea was that I wanted to feel like you were looking in front of a computer screen, like a holographic display in Star Trek or Star Wars, and you were looking at the planets as you were discovering them. So they'd be laid out, whether you were discovering or pre-planned. It was just a way to have it done visually rather than just through tables only, kind of a thing. And place it to help people from having to draw circles over and over again on their maps. This way they could just place it down, boom, within a couple of seconds, you have a whole solar system.
One of the things that I really liked about your system, especially with the kind of Galaxy Builder decks, is it's not just simple. This is a white dwarf star. This is a planetoid that is a hot Jupiter or an icy Neptune, stuff like that. You decided to give traits to unusual things, like maybe asteroids have an unusual electrical field around them, or one card I literally just drew out of my own Galaxy deck right now, space sarcophagus, so something that's surrounding a planet. One thing that I drew in my own personal game that my players don't know that that I've quite kind of drawn yet is there's one card that talks about an asteroid graveyard. And I'm thinking that is incredibly rich for adventure seeding, because like you're not just giving us the physical playground of where we're going, like, hey, here's a star system with like a red giant star, has so many planets, blah blah blah. But when you start getting into the civilizations and technological traits, there's even like political factions or ideas that you kind of drop into your game that really kind of expands out what a galaxy deck can do. And again, when you look at different TTRPG systems like Star Wars, Star Trek, you could probably even use this with like Battlestar Galactica, The Expanse, stuff like that. It's really kind of neat that the fact that we now have these tools. So when you were creating these, what was a lot of your inspiration? Because just from the way some of these cards are written, it sounds like you either have like you're either an incredible hobbyist when it comes to understanding spatial stuff, or you have a background in this. So what is your origin story with the writing process in this?
Just a big fan of all sci-fi. I mean, especially growing up, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Battlestar Galactica, the reboots. I grew up reading a whole bunch of RPG books like Robotech. Of course, not so well. Actually, no. There was one book that I didn't realize was part of Traveler, and it was called Rebellion. I think it was Meta Traveler or something. And I was fascinated with the artwork in it. And that was a big inspiration for stuff because they had like the whole Imperium and Rebellion, maps and everything. I love maps. Also, just stuff like games. The Mass Effect series, Stellaris. Like I played a whole bunch of. I could go on and on. Just everything sci-fi I was really huge into. And also history, war games, ancient history, American Civil War. I just love the way that cultures clash and how the settings involved with it, and how things connect. Based on where you are and who you are, kind of a thing. And the cards came out of just seeing what was out there, and I saw stuff. There were apps. There were ways to quickly generate it, on a computer, but there was nothing that you could just place down on the table in front of you. I like that tactile thing.
There's something about being able to have that at the ready. And as certain game masters, some of us do a lot of prep before we start our games. But as any game master will know, there's at least one chaos goblin in every group that decides to let's throw a wrench in that. And let's just hit the hyperdrive and go wherever. And I'm just kind of looking at your decks right now, and I'm looking at part of my small RPG library I have in my living room for my own like writing and like kind of freelancing. And I'm looking at it, and I never thought of one place I could apply your cards to, but it literally just blew my mind like that galaxy brain thing. I could use your cards with Battletech and really create some fascinating new worlds for the inner sphere and the clans to like kind of fight on. And I'm thinking that's interesting because again, your stuff works so well. I mean, hell, I'm like even looking at like some D&D stuff, you could apply this stuff to Spelljammer in a really easy way, or Pathfinder. And again, it's something really cool when I see companies like you do this. There's another company that I worked with earlier this year called Hit Point Press that has these animated NPC cards and like these drawable NPCs.
Oh, wow.
With like having tools like these cards allow spontaneous creativity. But one thing that I think Guy from Off My Bridge had talked about recently, or I can't remember whether it was him or whether it was the Dungeon Dudes. It was one of those big content creators. And they were saying with stuff like this, for example, how I'm doing it in my game, because I sent the digital copies of your cards to my helmsman in my Star Trek game. And I'm going to say, you're going to draw these. What is the path through the Shackleton Expanse?
That's great.
And that's so cool because like it allows stuff for me as the game. I'm like, okay, cool. It's a blue hypergiant star. How many planets are in that system? Is there radiation threats? Is there a civilization that happens to be highly adaptable to gravimetric stuff? And again, it's so fascinating because again, just hearing you talk about all your inspiration, you're not so you're very open in what you could adapt, because you mentioned Mass Effect, you mentioned stuff like that. So there's a lot of real world science in that. But there's also Star Trek influences, there's Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
influences. Again, it's so fascinating to see this been adapted. And as far as I can tell, there's a lot of people that really kind of love stuff like this, because again, having tools at the table, as you mentioned, it's more tactile. Like, you're literally bringing stellar cartography to life. And it's so much, I think it gives a lot back to the player who's creating these, like, oh, look at this cool star system I made. Look at this cool sector that I've
Mm-hmm.
made. And that's a whole new seed of adventure for people to go off on. So I guess, like, when you started working on these and you started doing the research, what
Mm-hmm.
did you find to be the most difficult thing to adapt to this? Because I know science and space stuff, you can get really lost in the weeds, and with
Mm-hmm.
advances in like James Webb kind of telescope and whatever comes out of NASA and the European Space Agency, our understanding of space constantly changes, literally year to year.
Yeah.
So when you were doing the research, how did you make this flexible enough that it's not like, oh, well, that's wrong now, or this could be expanded upon later? Like, where were some of the
Mm-hmm.
resources for real world science that you kind of drew from?
Of course, a NASA website and such for, like, because I didn't know exactly what was entailed, the star. Like, I knew about, yellow stars and, red stars, but I didn't actually know all the classification. So I had to delve really deep into that kind of stuff to make sure I understood it, because the cards also have to show you where different planets can be depending on the star. And so that was interesting, trying to figure out. Like, I think on the back of the star system cards, I added like the habitable zones, which is important, because that's where liquid water can exist. If you have liquid water, then you have general forms of life. So I had to do that. There's also just the themes and the IPs themselves clash. Like, Star Wars and Star Trek, are different. Where Star Wars doesn't care about the science of a system very much. Like, you have single biome planets, so that's what's expected when you're playing Star Wars. This is a forest planet, this is a swamp planet, and that's not, realistic. But it's expected. So I have the planets like that, but then on the back, I added a table where you could have different variations of the terrain and kind of work that way. And then with Star Trek, that's a lot easier because it's based on factual stuff. And as far as the new science stuff coming out, stuff like gravity waves, being, I guess, confirmed, dark matter, dark energy, I could delve into that with the trait cards. And that was another thing I had to work in. Originally, it was just going to be the planet stuff and then stuff on the back. And I realized there was too many variations, that I couldn't have one card have everything, because I'd be doing thousands of cards for every single variant. So I figured, okay, I can do a cold, like an icy moon. And then if I had something called a trait card, you could add any kind of trait you wanted. So it could have radiation. You could say this has, fire tornadoes, and you just mix and match all these different things, and it kind of grows out of that. So it's a combination. Like, splitting it up really, really helped with that.
Yeah, like, there's one thing I noticed when you started adding, like, kind of traits. Again, there's so many things that you can add just for adventure seeds. I was just looking at one of your cards where it talks about civilizations, and it talks about species that are sentient. What are their traits? Are they nocturnal? Do they do this? Do they do that? That is so much extra stuff for the game master. That's work I don't have to do now. And it creates things so much quicker on the table and on the fly. So when a player, for example, like I said, if it's Star Trek, that's an organic discovery. And in Star Wars, again, now you could say, oh yeah, this is a planet that was colonized by Gamorreans or the Quarren or something like that. And again, because you're right, that's something I never quite thought about until you mentioned it. Like, Star Wars is very single biome planet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're right. Like, I just read the Modifius book on the guide to exploration. I'm thinking, yeah, no, it don't work like that, at least not too often anyway. But yeah, I find that so fascinating. And again, just the fact that you took the time to make things so rich and diverse, I think that's really kind of incredible. Based upon some of the things that you've heard, because actually, I guess my next question would be just kind of a boom pop in the head. How long has Galaxy Decks been around for so far?
Oh goodness. Let's see. I got the idea in 2017. I started working on it. I posted stuff early on in Instagram, DeviantArt, that kind of thing to kind of get, and Reddit, I think, to get feedback, see if I was going in the right direction. And then COVID hit, so that kind of delayed things a bit. And then I finally released stuff at the end of 2023, and it was the planets deck and the planet traits deck. And then throughout 2024, I started releasing extra expansion sets, and then the star system mats, so you could place them down. And they had like proper orbits and that kind of thing. And then this year, I think the beginning of this year, I released the star systems deck, which kind of zooms things out, on your maps. Because I noticed that a lot of people skip the star system creation part. They just go straight to the sector, which is fine. But what happens in there, as I always wondered. But I decided, you still need the star system stuff. So I did that for 2024. And now I'm trying to wrap up what I call phase 1, which is the setting, the location. So it's the planets, the spatial coordinates, all that kind of stuff. And phase 2 will be cultures, the people that you encounter. And I'll be doing it the same way I do the planets, where you will have a militant culture. There will be a religious culture, and you can combine and mix them so you get a religious militant culture. And then there'll be traits where that'll define, like, are they honorable? Are they slavers? Are they mega builders? Are they, I guess, all kinds of things, like cloners, the traits will be able to you'll be able to mix and match, combine them all together to create a specific culture. And you can name it using like my label cards and that kind of thing. And then after cultures will be governments. So it'll be like 3 cards, like the type, like the ideology of the government, who's in control of the government, what's the authority, and then how they got there. Like, are they elected? Are they anointed? Are they appointed, voted in? That kind of thing. So you could get something like an anointed democratic junta, which is very strange, but if you draw the cards and you work with them,
That's really cool.
Thanks. Oh, and then phase 3 will be settlements, which will double as population cards. So like you'll have a mining camp, which will be a card. It'll show like a little collection of buildings, and it'll say who's there and like what kind of things you might find, whether, if you stumble into the camp, what kind of type of people. So, military, guards, administrators, that kind of thing. And then what type of items you might find there. Just going from camps from like 10 to 100 people up to cities and metropolises, tens of thousands of people, 1 million people. Because again, like with the planets, trying to keep everything in one place, it's not possible. Like I could easily have a planet that's like a desert planet with 1,000 people. It's like, okay, well, what if there's more than that? Then you got to create another card for it. It's like, okay, I got to split it up. So that's the 3 phases that I've been working on so far.
That's really kind of awesome. When you were talking there about the different types of governments and peoples and their philosophy, thinking, all right, Cardassians, Bajorans, Klingons.
Yep. All that was in my mind when I was thinking of each category. It's like, pulling from definitely Star Trek and Star Wars and all the others.
I guess that's kind of a fun question there. When you're writing these cards, do you find it's easier to write with any specific setting in mind? Like, do you find it easier to write with like Star Trek in mind, or Star Wars, or Battlestar Galactica sort of thing?
I mean, I've watched them so much and for so long, it's just kind of there. Like, I'll start with something that's factual or historical, and something from the shows will immediately come to mind. Like, especially with the government, the different types of stuff, we've seen in reality. And then, Cardassians is easy, dictatorial and, but very traditional and family oriented, kind of thing. I mean, it's there's just so much that we have to pull from that all I got to do is open up Google Docs and make a list, and it just all starts pouring in. And then the problem is trying to organize everything out in the cards, and because I want to make sure that people who buy these get as much as possible just in the first purchase. So I need to have everything there, and it wasn't always possible with the planets, which is why I'm going to be working on a Planets 2 deck, which will include things like city planets, grassland planets, a Mars type planet, halo rings, jump gates, all that extra stuff, that's been talked about in sci-fi, but I haven't hit yet in the cards.
Man, I can't wait till you do like a Dyson sphere or something like that, or like super voids or something like that. That's not gonna lie, that's some pretty cool shit.
And
And
wormholes and all that. So
oh, that's so exciting. And I guess just looking at the flexibility of the cards. Now, obviously, we want to focus on having these in the physical world. Has there ever been any thought about developing this into an app or something where you could buy the cards a la carte, like the different sets, put them into an app, and then you could just pull this on demand? Because let me tell you, having a tool like this would be, I'm paying you money for this, because this would be so cool to just have on my phone in an instant if I need something, or if I need something and I'm running like a Star Trek game, like shit, need a sector, need it now, forgot my cards at home.
Yeah.
Is that something that's ever been like kind of thought about maybe?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've seen what's been done for Star Wars, Star Forged, what's the thing? Stars Without Number. I mean, all that stuff is great. And I'd love to have that for my cards. First, though, I need to do just virtual tabletop, like just having it available to be able to pull up in cards and put it on a virtual tabletop. Like I need that to do that first, and then after that, I can look into creating like an actual app for this. Because the next phase after the sci-fi is to go into fantasy, like do all this stuff, but for the fantasy one. So I need to have all that in place.
That's gonna be awesome. Like, man, just again, it's so cool that you're like you've covered sci-fi, you're hoping to expanding into fantasy. Would you ever do anything involving, say, cyberpunk or horror maybe?
Yeah, because I mean those are offshoots of sci-fi or whatever, but I do have another block which I'm calling I guess a world builder decks, where it's for cyberpunk but also superheroes. Because it's kind of the same thing, using high tech and using superpowers, to fight crime or do crimes, that kind of thing. And those will be, instead of laying out planets, that'll be laying out city blocks.
Oh.
And the city blocks will have, districts, and they'll have, the same way that planets are. The problem I'm trying to figure out is how to get the traits in there, because the traits, the way I have it is like when you place them on the table, you place the traits next to the planet, so you can it's like opening up a little website, little database file on the planet itself. And if you have city blocks all close to each other, touching each other, there's no room for the trait cards. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. One idea is like I have the star system mats, like if you've seen those, like when you play it on the table, it's got the orbits and it's open space. You don't cram all the planets in there. They're in their own orbits or whatever. So what I could do is have like district mats, and you put the neighborhood cards in there. So it's like a generic neighborhood district, but you're putting in specific locations for, like, this is a lair. This is, Ace Chemicals kind of a thing. Yeah. And then next to that will be space enough to put trait cards for, like, well, this has certainly had a spill, or someone broke in, or it's got a security system, that kind of thing.
Man, you were talking about that, and I'm thinking Cyberpunk Red, Shadowrun, Urban Sprawl. Holy shit, this could be so much fun, man. Like, and I'm even just kind of thinking about this again, just putting an idea in the back of your head. If you could, if a system like this, a card system, this would be so nice for designing. In Shadowrun, there's the I can't remember what it's called, the Matrix. So designing systems like, hey, you need to break into I don't know, as technology's pyramid, but here is their decking matrix you have to break into. That could be a fun little side project. Again, I guess you'd have to talk to Catalyst Game Labs about that, but still, that is really cool. Not gonna lie, like if you could I really hope you pull this off, because this is kind of that is so freaking cool. And again, that would save me so much time. Like, hey, you are in Seattle. What's the district like? The Halloweeners are there. But yeah, just being able to flesh out the world so easily and so fast. And again, it's on the table so the players can interact, and even the players can draw cards like, hey, maybe this is a good trait, maybe it's a bad trait. You don't know. That's so much fun. Like, Jeff, I gotta say, this has been a really fun conversation today, and it's getting me more excited to play with these cards, to get these out on my tables. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what comes out of you guys next. So if people wanted to buy your products, where would they have to go?
Mainly it's through Drive-Thru RPG and Itch.io. I mean, you can search for Journey Mountain or Galaxy Builder decks, just on Drive-Thru or even Google, and it'll take you straight there. Like the store name is just under Journey Mountain Studios.
Well, guys, these get a high recommendation from me. You can look forward to these being featured in our holiday gift guide later on this year on thisweekingeek.net. So look for that holiday gift guide being broadcast on December 12th, along with a bunch of other cool TTRPG products and video games and toys and all sorts of other things from our friends out there in the world. So Jeff, once again, thank you for taking time to speak with us. Please keep us informed of what new things are going to be coming out of Journey Mountain. I have a feeling they're going to be exciting additions to our tabletops and hopefully virtual tabletops in the near future.
Yeah, will do. Thank you for having me.
Guys, that was my interview with Jeff McDowell over at Journey Mountain Studios. Like I said, guys, this shit's really cool. It was really hard to contain my excitement during this interview because, again, I'm a very spontaneous DM, and having the ability to go, oh shit, I need something, I have it, so I can maintain the illusion of control. Point is, I'm not in control. You think I am. Good enough for me. So anyway, guys, be sure to check out more stuff. Like I said, please check out his stuff on Drive-Thru our RPG. Please support him. Hopefully we will see more stuff, and we'll have Jeff back on the show when we see some additional cool stuff come out from those guys later on. All right, guys, so I'm going to get out of here. So enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully you will always be rolling natural 20s, or maybe in the case of Star Trek, critical ones, because hey, that's a double success and you want that. So anyway, guys, until next time, I've been Mike the Birdman saying, be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.